Nation, it's time for me to review probably the artist who I've reviewed the most new albums by ever since I have started as an album reviewer. And that is, of course, Burzum. Now, ever since Varg has been released from prison, this is now the third album that he has offered us. And if the past two are any indication, that means that this should be a time of celebration, because the last two albums, even though the opinions, of course, will differ amongst everybody, I actually felt the last two albums to be pretty damn good. Now, a lot of people will say that the earlier material is far superior, and opinions are opinions. But I really enjoyed the last two pieces of work. I think that they had a lot of positive aspects to work by. However, this third album, ever since post-imprisonment, should I say, is entitled Metamorphosis in English. And it was promised that it was going to be over an hour of new music, 11 tracks, and metamorphosis is probably a fitting word to use. Let's examine the word. Metamorphosis indicates change. Metamorphosis indicates that something is taking one state after being previously another, and going through a series of changes that could only be described as evolutionary, could be described as biological, or it could be simply described as a change, period, in thought or execution. In this case, the execution and thought style is of evolution, and metamorphosis is what I'm going for here, because this is quite the departure from the previous two affairs. This is a very, very lengthy affair, as Varg had promised, as Burzum promised, and it is very, very formulaic. This is a very simplistic, formulaic album that seems to establish a good idea whenever these songs individually begin, however, then continue to go back to it again and again and again. Now, I understand. Some people out there are going to be like, listen, Burzum's music has never exactly been technically spectacular. It's not necessarily been something where you can expect virtuosic tendencies or anything like that. That's just not the style of music to expect from Burzum, and I understand that. I have done my metal history. I have listened to all of the critical Burzum releases, the new ones, the old ones, the ones even in between. However, this album is definitely a far cry from what we have seen from the classics and what we have seen from the post-imprisonment first two albums, Bellows and Fallen. Very, very droll. Very, very dull. Very, very boring. In fact, if I seem sleep-deprived, it's not because I just finished some epic rant video and I'm completely out of breath. No, it's because this album was very, very close to putting me into a coma. Listen. This album may have some positive features. It does have some riffs, some ideas, that are constructed very nicely. There are atmospheric vocal parts of this record also that are very moving, that definitely establish a very sinister atmosphere, that definitely give you a feeling that you are there. This is supposed to be very poetic. This is supposed to really harken back to many old works of literature and the like, from the homeland. However, the way in which they're represented and the way that we kind of get this in a very audio format is so incredibly droll, and it feels so impeccably lifeless that it's not a wonder that this leaked so early, and it's not a wonder that it was constructed and is being planned to be released only a year after Fallen, roughly. Because it simply seems as though this album was just very quickly put together and with very minimal thought. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of people out there that say that I can't understand, nor will I ever possibly be able to understand, the majestic beauty that this album holds. And I understand that because that is your opinion, and your opinion is very valid. However, after hearing two pieces of music from Burzum in the past 2 years, that I found to be very, very good, that I found to be awesome pieces of material, this is a huge disappointment. What I got instead was an exercise of futility. What I got instead was an exercise of disappointment. I got something extremely minimalist, something that I have grown to expect through Burzum. However, this is a level of minimalism that I don't think anybody could have expected, because I certainly did not. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that this is something that I would have to come in front of a camera to you guys, as an album reviewer now for more than 3 years, and report back that this is an album that actually lulled me to sleep. I couldn't believe it. Burzum fans, be forewarned of this album. If you've listened to it already and you've enjoyed it, then that's very good for you. I'm very, very glad that you're able to enjoy something that I cannot, merely because that's what makes music a universal tongue, one in which the words spoken on the universal tongue will always be different. However, for those who are curious, those who are trying to get into Burzum for the first time, this is certainly not the album to do that with. This is certainly not the album to do that with at all. 5 out of 10. First true monumental disappointment here in 2012. I'm upset.